I'm not going to completely redo this one. It's got a lot of steps in it, as you can see, and I just want to kind of go through it as quickly as I can so these videos don't get too long. I think you've already seen me cut out enough things and transform them and scale them and all of that, and it actually took a lot more time making the decisions about how to force these guys to fit my picture than if I would have just pre-planned it. So I don't want to put you guys through all of that, but anyway, what I came up with was that I wanted to make it look like I was behind these buildings here holding some puppet strings, and that this, that I'm a giant here and that I'm like a doll here, and there's going to be strings attached to me, and then they're going to be attached to all of my fingers. I had to do a few things, make a few changes in order for this to be believable, and one thing was I actually had to cut out my hand and reposition it a little bit to make it a better, more convincing way of, holding the doll. So what's happened, and what probably would have happened anyway, is I've got myself in front of the background, which part of which I need to duplicate and place on top, to like make it kind of look sandwiched. But I did also change a couple extra things in the background to make the composition a little bit better, because the way the forms were interacting with one another, I'll just show you what I did. So you can see there's a ton of layers on this. And that's just because I kind of got carried away and started doing a whole lot of work. But one of the first things I did was, well, I added a castle for one. This castle back here, I thought it would look better if it was a little bit bigger, just because of the way that it would interact with my hand. So I did cut it out and scale it up and paste it. And you can still see a little piece of it in the background. Let me make this invisible again. Whoops, wrong layer. Once you get this many layers, it gets really, really confusing. I don't have my right click enabled, and that's part of the problem. There it is. Okay, so I duplicated the background, which I told you guys I kind of prefer that you do anyway. And you can see where the old building was. If I needed to do a better job, I would have had to do something else. But there was going to be something in front of it, so it doesn't really matter. But for this, I used the patch tool. Where is the patch tool? Right here. Okay, so what I did, and I'll just kind of demonstrate, maybe I'll try to get rid of a little bit of this kind of smoke-looking stuff. I had to draw, selections around rather small sections of the building, because I could only select out small pieces at a time due to the fact that there just wasn't a whole lot of consistency around it. And so I would draw a selection with the path tool, drag it over to something else, and see, at this point it's not really working very well, because the patch tool doesn't like it when you do it again and again and again like that. But if I had really wanted to make it work better for myself, let me show you the clone stamp tool. Sorry, real quick. Let me just show you what I probably would have done if I found it necessary. I probably would have gone ahead and drawn a clean line right here to just mask out the edge of that building. The rest of this doesn't matter so much. I'm just going to do kind of a sloppy edge there. The only edge I'm really concerned with it right here, because the only thing I want to edit right here is this. And the clone tool takes a little bit of practice, but usually what I do is the patch tool first and then clean up what the patch tool did with the clone tool, or use the clone tool first and clean up what I did with the patch tool, just kind of depending. But let's see, with the clone tool, I can actually sample some areas and literally paint those same areas back in. And I think that's probably what I would do if I was trying to make this look a little bit more convincing. So this is my clone stamp tool, and the thing you have to remember with it is that when you're sampling, it's going to uh, paint whatever it's going to have two brushes that kind of move in sync, one that selects and ones that paint, and it happens at the same time. And you need to pay attention to what you're selecting, because if you're on a blank layer and you tell it to select from current layer, you're not going to get anything. Normally what I would do is I would create a new layer. In fact, just for good practice, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a new layer here, if it will let me. There we go. Okay, so I'm actually going to paint some of this background into this layer, because then if I mess up, I can throw this in the trash. Okay, so I'm going to use my brush, and it's Option click on a Mac. I think it would be Alt click on a PC. Option click. Okay, let me make my brush a little bigger before I do that. Option click. Okay, and then I move my brush over, and you want to sample from an area nearby. It's going to look weird if you don't. I'm going to move my brush over to the area that I want to start painting, and when I press the mouse down, you see that I've got now two crosshairs. Okay, the one on the left is sampling, the one on the right is painting. And so wherever I move my brush, I'm picking up pixels where the black crosshair is. And that's all well and good, unless I get lazy or, you know, well, I'm in trouble now, right? Because I actually didn't look that bad, but if I was just wanting to get sky, I've started picking up part of that tree, and that's not what I want. So I'm going to, start over. So always click from as close by as you can and think about where you're going to be sampling. If I started here and I click right here, I'm going to have trouble too. Option click. See how I'm kind of painting part of that building back in. And so this does take a little bit of practice. And you have to resample kind of regularly. Okay. Let me make my brush a little bigger. You know me, I'm a fan of the big brush. No, not too big, because I don't have a very big space to sample from. So option click. And so I'm really watching the crosshair on the left side, and as soon as I don't think I can do anymore, I'm going to sample again from someplace else. Option click, paint. Okay, and see, it's okay if I paint this little cloud back in. As long as I don't do that too many times, it won't look hokey. But what happens if I start to sample something that I've already sampled? It's going to just keep going, and it's going to look weird. Okay, so you've got to kind of be careful about resampling too much. Option click. Okay, that doesn't look so bad. Okay, and maybe I'll just do an option click right here. And the reason I drew the mask was so that I would have a nice clean line right here along the building. Now that I've got that, I don't need this selection anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. And I've pretty much gotten rid of anything that looked like the castle before. I think anything else that I have left to do I could probably fix with either the I'm sorry, with the spot healing or the patch tool. But let me just do one more. I'm going to tell it to sample from current layer only. No, wait, I can't because I'm on a blank layer, sorry. Sample from current layer and below so I don't pick up my hand here. And I'm going to option click. I just want to paint in a little bit more of this. There we go. It always looks better if you use a bigger brush if you can. Just always looks a little bit more convincing. And always use a soft brush when you do this. Okay, so if I wasn't happy with you know what I had, I would have had to do kind of a combination of the patch tool and the clone stamp tool. It didn't really matter for me, but I just wanted you to see that. Okay, so then the building is in there. I'll show you the adjustments I made to that building later. Let me just on this video work only on the pasting of everything. Okay, so the next thing I did was I pasted the foreground back in over top of me and the castle here. Oh wait, I've got one more thing that I did. I need to cover up that hand. And so I cut out this building. You can't see it very well, but I'm going to do some exposure correction to it on another video, but this is a building, a separate building right here in the foreground. I cut it out and I scaled it up and placed it so that it was kind of in between this building here and the castle, so it was covering up my hand. Okay, so I placed that there, but you know, I still have something that looks weird because this building is supposed to be in front of it, and that's when I put the foreground over the top of that. Okay, so I think, oh, one more thing that I did, yeah, I really liked this tree, but you can see when I made the castle bigger, the leaves of the tree got covered up, and that's kind of weird, right? Because if the castle's off in the distance and the tree's right next to us, the tree should overlap the castle. And so on this one, what I did, can I find that layer easily? Let's see. Where would that one be? That one's going to be way up here somewhere. I think it's this one right here. There we go. Let me show you what I did to copy those out, because that's kind of an interesting little trick too. I'm going to make my castle invisible for just a moment. That's not the castle. Okay. What I wanted to do then is I wanted to just copy the trees. I didn't want to copy any of the sky because I wanted the sky behind the castle. This creates a selection issue, and of course there's the quick select tool, and we already know that works really well sometimes, but it's not perfect. However, sometimes you can just select a color range, and since everything in this tree is pretty much just black, one thing I can do is I can just click on the black of the tree. Okay, now you can see how the tree is pretty much all selected right there. Everything that's white is going to come out as a selection, including a bunch of stuff down here, but don't worry. We'll get rid of that, but I wanted a selection around all the stuff in the tree. I'm going to go ahead and tell it okay. And that was under, I'm sorry, that was under select color. It's under select color range, that right there, okay? And of course I've got all this stuff that I don't want. Easy enough to handle. I just draw a lasso tool around it, holding down my Option key or my Alt key, which is to remove from a selection. Okay, so all I have is this tree selected, okay? I'm going to now make my castle visible again, and I'm going to come all the way up here so that it'll show you when I paste this. I'm going to paste it in place, so I don't have to worry about it coming, you know, lining it up or anything like that. I'm going to go edit. Did I copy it yet? Oh, I don't think I did. Let me go back to that layer. I think I forgot to copy it. I did. Edit, copy. There we go. Edit, paste special. If you told you just paste, it's going to stick it in the middle of the page somewhere. So put paste special, paste in place. And of course, you cannot see anything's different other than the fact that it has placed some of the leaves of the tree in front of the castle. So here's my new layer up here, and that's what it did. Okay, so that was super easy, and I didn't have to struggle with my selection. So this is pretty much how I have everything arranged. On the next video, I'm going to show you how I did some of the color and value adjustments.